Welcome to Chapter 1, Introduction to Forensics. This is your Professor Atif Fareed Muhammad. Welcome to the class. Let's begin learning together. The key concepts, the objectives are summarize the basic principles of computer forensics and also summarize important laws regarding computer forensics. The key concepts we will be learning in this chapter are the basic concepts of forensics, the chain of custody, basic hardware and networking knowledge needed for forensics, laws related to computer forensics. So let's jump into this together and see what we have in the tri-year for us. What is computer forensics? The use of analytical and investigative techniques to identify, collect, examine, and preserve evidence information that is magnetically stored or encoded. Let's look into this in an example way. Imagine a company, ABC, has spent years developing cutting-edge software. One day they discover that the former employee Alex or James or XYZ has started working for a competitor, and suddenly the competitor is releasing similar software. The first company suspects that this individual who moved might have stolen their intellectual property. This is where computer forensics come into play. The first company hires a computer forensics expert to investigate. The expert starts by securing and analyzing the person who moved from company A to company B's old company laptop. They use specialized tools to recover deleted files, emails, and chat logs. They also examine the laptop's access logs to see what files were accessed and when. The goal is to find any evidence that Alex might have copied or sent confidential files to an external location. The computer forensics experts find evidence that this individual had emailed several key development files to a personal email account shortly before leaving the company. This evidence is then presented to the legal team, who can use it to build a case against this individual and the competing company. Without computer forensics, the first company might not have been able to prove the theft of or protect their intellectual property. The second objective is to recover, analyze, and present computer-based material in such a way that it can be used as evidence in the court of law. This applies to all the domains of a typical IT infrastructure: user domain, workstation domain, LAN domain. LAN is local area network. LAN to WAN domain. WAN is wide area network. Remote access domain and system application domain in totality. The 7 domains of a typical IT infrastructure: the user domain, where all the users are involved; work domain, where you work actually, and then you work in the local area network within your organization. And then when you enter into the wide area network domain, then you are working with interconnected offices, and you might be using broadband internet as well. So this is the 7 domains. This picture actually has all 7 domains mentioned in the typical IT infrastructure. Using scientific knowledge, important to understand and apply scientific methods and processes, and have knowledge of the relevant scientific disciplines, including scientific knowledge of the field. Requires a thorough understanding of computer hardware. Creating systems running on the device may include smartphones and routers. At least the basics of computer networks. Stay up to date. Keep learning what is there, where it is stored, and how that information may be used by computer user and computer criminal alike. Collecting: how you collect evidence determines if that evidence is admissible in a court. Analyzing: putting together the data you have and finding out what sort of picture is revealed and presenting the expert report and expert testimony comes into play here. Formal document that lists what tests you conducted, what you found, and your conclusions. Include your curriculum vitae or resume. Support every conclusion with at least two to three reputable references that either agree with that conclusion or provide support for how you came to that conclusion. Must be very thorough, complete, and error free. The expert testimony come into play where deposition comes in, testimony taken from a witness or party to the case before a trial. Less formal and is typically held in an attorney's office. Sworn testimony is lying under the oath is perjury, which is a felony. U.S. Federal Rule 702 defines what an expert is and what an expert testimony is. Other U.S. federal rules related to expert witness testimony at trial: Rule 703, basis on an expert; 704, opinions on ultimate issue; 705, disclosing the facts or data underlying an expert; Rule 706 is court appointed experts witness; and Rule 401, tests of relevant evidence. Understanding the field of digital forensics in a little bit more depth. The field is changing very rapidly. Emerging standards provide clear, codified methods for conducting a forensic examination. The entities involved in the actively using computer forensics are the military, government agencies, law firms, criminal prosecutors, and the list goes on. The digital forensics, also known as computer or cyber forensics, is like digital detective work. It is about uncovering and interpreting electronic data to solve crimes, investigate incident, or resolve disputes. Think of it as finding and analyzing digital footprints and that people leave behind on computers, smartphones, and other devices. Let's look into two examples. Our first use case is a hacking incident. Imagine a bank discovers that their security system had been breached by hackers. They need to know how the hackers got in, what they did, and what data they might have stolen. A digital forensics expert would examine the bank's servers and security logs. They would look for any unusual activities, unauthorized access, or changes made to the system. By tracking the hacker's digital footprints, the expert can help the bank understand the extent of the breach and improves their security, prevent future incidents. The next would be employee conduct as an example. Consider a company that suspects an employee of leaking confidential information to competitors. Digital forensics can help investigate this. The expert might analyze the employee's work computer, email accounts, and USB device usage. They would look for any signs of data being copied or sent to unauthorized locations. Even if the employees try to delete their tracks, forensics tool can often recover the data. This evidence can then be used to take appropriate action against the employee and protect the company's information. In all these examples, digital forensics play a vital role in uncovering the truth. It is about using technology to solve real world problems, whether that catching criminals, protecting businesses, or keeping people safe. To work in this field, you need a strong understanding of computers and cybersecurity, as well as an investigative mindset. You should be comfortable with technology, patient, detail oriented, and eager to solve puzzles. It is also important to stay up to date with the latest trends and tools, as digital forensics is constantly evolving field as mentioned earlier. What is digital evidence? Information that has been processed and assembled so that it is relevant to an investigation and supports a specific findings or determination. Raw information is not in and itself evidence. Data must be relevant to the case in order to be an evidence. Let's look into an example. Digital evidence is any data or information stored on a transmitted electronically that can be used to prove or disprove a fact in an investigation or legal proceeding. It can come from various sources like computers, smartphones, servers, or even IoT devices. Digital evidence is volatile and can be easily altered or deleted. So it's crucial to handle and preserve it carefully. So let's look into one example. Internet browser history is one example. A person's internet browser history can serve as a digital evidence. It can show that websites they visited, what they searched for, and when they did it. This information can be valuable in various cases such as criminal investigations or employment disputes. In the criminal investigations, law enforcement might use browser history to prove a suspect visited illegal websites or researched criminal activities, whereas in employment disputes, employers might use it to show that an employee was looking for a new job while using the company's device, or that they were visiting inappropriate websites during the work hours. Next is the email communications. Emails can be a rich source of digital evidence. They can provide a record of conversations, agreements, and transactions. Both the content of the emails and metadata like the sender, recipient, date, and time can be useful in investigations like fraud cases and business disputes. In the fraud cases, investigators might use emails to prove that fraudsters impersonated someone else or sent manipulative messages to deceive victims. The business disputes where companies might use emails to prove or disprove agreements or to show that sensitive information was leaked to competitors. In both examples, digital evidence can provide a trail of a person's activities and interactions. However, it is important to note that collecting and using digital evidence must be done legally and ethically, respecting privacy laws and rights. Also, the integrity and authenticity of digital evidence should be maintained to ensure it is admissible in the court. This often involves creating a copy of the original data and using tools to verify that it has not been altered. So, type of evidence, it can be real, documentary, testimonial, and demonstrative. I would suggest you to read the provided notes for more in depth understanding of yours. Scope related challenges to system forensics. Volume of data to be analyzed, complexity of the computer systems, size and character of crime scene, and size of the caseload and resource limitations. So let's look into this in an example. Scope related challenges in system forensics refer to difficulties in defining or managing the scale or boundaries of a digital investigation. Imagine a large corporation, let's say ABC Tech Incorporated, suffers a data breach. They need to understand the extent of the breach, how it happened, and what data was compromised. However, they may face several scope related challenges. The first challenge is the size and complexity of the network. The organization has thousands of computers, servers, and other devices spread across multiple locations worldwide. Their network is complex, with numerous subnets, virtual machines, and cloud services. Identifying which systems were affected by the breach is like finding a needle in the haystack. The sheer volume of the data and the complexity of the network make it challenging to set the initial boundaries of the investigation. The second is in the large corporation systems and the data are constantly changing. New devices are added, old ones are removed, and data is continuously being created, modified, or deleted. This dynamic nature makes it difficult to capture a snapshot of the environment at the time of the breach. Moreover, the breach might have started months ago, adding a historical dimension to the scope. Third party and BYOD policies, bring your own device. This organization works with numerous third party vendors and allows employees to use their own devices for work. BYOD policy. This expands the scope of the investigation beyond the corporation's own systems. Investigators might need to examine third party systems or employee owned devices, which can present legal and logistical challenges. Investigating a large scale data breach can require significant resources, including specialized forensic tools, skilled personnel, and time. This ABC Incorporated or the organization we are discussing might struggle to allocate sufficient resources, especially if they need to keep up their business running smoothly during the investigation. This can lead into tough decisions about prioritizing certain systems or data over the others. To manage these scope related challenges, investigators need to carefully define the initial boundaries of the investigation based on known facts and the value of different systems and data. Be flexible and ready to adjust the scope as new information comes to light. Use automated tools to handle large volumes of data efficiently. Work closely with the corporation's IT and legal departments to navigate complex environments and policies. Ensure they have the necessary resources and support to conduct a thorough investigation. Addressing these challenges is crucial to ensure that digital investigation is effective, efficient, and legally sound. So, types of digital system forensics analysis: the physical storage media, email, network, internet, as mentioned earlier. General guidelines: maintain chain of custody, do not touch suspect drive, the create a document trail, and secure the evidence. The computer hardware has memory that can be read only memory, that is ROM, or random access memory, or RAM, or any other memory in a disk drive such as hard drives and storage devices. Operating systems would be Windows, Linux, Android, and Mac OS. Files and file systems: any document, spreadsheet, picture, video, or program. The file systems can be physical journaling. Logical journaling is also the idea to make sure that we take care of that. Network addressing: physical ports, MAC address, IP address, IPv4, example like 192.2.132.8. This is an example. Logical port numbers, uniform resource locators, or the URLs. So ipconfig, I would suggest you to run this if you're running the Windows by going into cmd.exe or command prompt ipconfig, and you will be able to see this information coming in your own internet protocol configuration of your own desktop, laptop. You can also ping. You can ping a website, and then you see how the results are coming in terms of when you're pinging the websites. Okay, obscured information and anti-forensics. So obscured information may be secured by encryption, hidden using these steganographic software, compressed or in a proprietary format. Cybercriminals sometimes obscure information to deter forensic examinations. Companies use certain manipulation and storage techniques to protect business sensitive information. Anti forensics or attackers may use technique to intentionally conceal their identities, locations, and behaviors. The examples are data destruction, data hiding, data transformation, and file system alteration. The Daubert standard, I would suggest you to read this in quite depth because this will help you understand quite a few things like legal precedent set in 1993 Supreme Court case of Daubert versus Merrell Dow Pharmaceuticals, and the link is given here, or you can find that just simply using the Google. Regards the admissibility of expert witness testimony during legal proceedings. Any scientific evidence presented in a trial must have been reviewed and tested by the relevant scientific community. In the Daubert standard, we look at empirical testing, peer review, error rate, and standards. Generally accepted theory or technique, I would suggest you to look at the available course material and read these carefully to understand, and comprehend in more depth. U.S. laws affecting digital forensics, the Federal Privacy Act of 1974, where the PPA came out in 1980, the Communication Assistance of Law Enforcement Act of 1994. This kept going on, and we have seen so many laws which are coming to be applied in the forensics arena. I suggest you to look into that carefully so you know where we are heading in this course in terms of digital forensics. The Child Protection Act and Sexual Predator Punishment Act of 1998. And that's something that I can actually share an example with you here, that law enforcement agencies often use digital forensics to fight online child exploitation. In such cases, investigators might seize a suspect's computer or smartphone to look for evidence. They would use specialized tools to recover deleted files, analyze browser history, and examine chat logs. Any incriminating evidence like illegal images or conversations would be documented and presented in the court. This helps to prosecute the suspect and the protect and by protecting potential victims. And obviously, you can always look at the U.S. Patriot Act and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. More laws are given here. The 1018 USC 1030 fraud and related activity in connection with computers. The list goes on, and it can lead up to the warrants issued against the suspect. The Communication Assistance for Law Enforcement Act of 1994, the federal wiretap law for traditional wired telephony, was expanded to include wireless, voice over internet protocol, and other forms of electronic communication, including signal, traffic, and metadata. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 also enacted, and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, court issues a warrant for actions under FISA also. The Child Protection and Wireless Act, as I given an example, the Child Protection and Sexual Predator Punishment Act of 1998 is applicable, and the Wireless Communication and Public Safety Act of 1999 is also applicable. When we are reading the details, we must be mindful of all these information. The USA Patriot Act of 2001, the primary law under which a wide variety of internet and communication information, content, and metadata is currently collected. The provisions exist within the Patriot Act to protect identity and privacy of U.S. citizens. Warrants are issued to see a search and seizure. Fourth Amendment and reasonable expectation of the privacy is also needed to be looked at. The federal guidelines, FBI computer forensics guidelines, I would suggest you to read that in more depth. Secret Service guidelines, how the information forensics help Secret Service to uncover anything that is illegal. A regional computer forensics laboratory program is also one I suggest you to go and read into in quite depth. The basic concept of forensics are discussed in this lecture, and we will follow a second lecture shortly. And I would suggest you to go through the details of chains of custody, basic hardware and networking knowledge needed for forensics in a little bit more depth. Laws, also you must be aware of the laws related to computer forensics. See you in the next lecture.